Before we begin, take a second and look up. That sky above you? The one you've trusted your whole life? What if it's not what it seems? What if the atmosphere isn't just air and clouds, but a cage? In this video, we're diving into a theory that's been buried, silenced, and erased from scientific records. The idea that Earth's sky is an artificial barrier built to keep us from escaping something much bigger. This isn't science fiction. This is based on classified reports, ancient texts, missing scientists, and strange phenomena caught on tape. If you've ever felt like something was off, like we're being watched, or like the truth is just out of reach, you're not alone. So stay with me, because once you hear this story, you'll never look at the sky the same way again. Most people look up at the sky and see freedom, an endless blue canvas, a symbol of open possibility. But to some, the sky is not open at all. To them, it is a wall, a barrier, a construct. It began with an obscure scientist named Dr. Elias Kern in 1978, a meteorologist by title, but far more than that by nature. Kern wasn't interested in rain patterns or barometric pressure. He was obsessed with anomalies, things the atmosphere shouldn't be doing, like heat pockets that refuse to dissipate, electromagnetic pulses that circled the globe without losing strength, and flashes of light above storm systems that seemed controlled. At first, he kept to himself. A quiet man, relegated to a weather station in Alaska, Kern filed his reports and buried his suspicions. But everything changed the night a Category 5 storm collapsed in seconds, vanished, as if turned off by a switch. Satellites showed a perfect circular ripple where the storm had been, like a stone dropped into the sky itself. And in the center of that ripple, a shimmer, visible only in the infrared spectrum. Kern started to write. His notes, later known as the Stratos Codex, were confiscated by government agents in 1981. Officially, they never existed. Unofficially, a single copy was smuggled out by a former NASA intern named Rachel Ives. Decades later, it would surface on a dark web forum dedicated to alternative physics, where it was dismissed as science fiction. But those who read it carefully noticed something strange: diagrams of the upper atmosphere showing layered structures, energy flow patterns, and references to an ancient system not built by us. Kern believed that Earth's atmosphere wasn't entirely natural. That high above the troposphere, beyond what human eyes could see, was a frequency-based containment field. Something built to trap energy, not just radiation or solar winds, but consciousness itself. And he wasn't the first to believe it. Long before Elias Kern, there were whispers. Ancient Vedic texts spoke of a sky net, a luminous cage placed by gods to prevent the souls of men from ascending. The Gnostics warned of archons, cosmic jailers who ruled the heavens and manipulated human perception. Even Plato hinted at a celestial mechanism designed not for order, but for confinement. But Kern gave it a modern name, the celestial firewall. According to his notes, this structure was not visible because it wasn't physical in the way we understand matter. It operated in higher harmonics, frequencies only detectable under extreme conditions. Lightning strikes, solar flares, and massive electromagnetic disruptions could briefly illuminate its edges, like chalk lines drawn across a black canvas. Rachel Ives, the former NASA intern who preserved Kern's work, spent the next 15 years searching for proof. She hacked weather satellites, tapped into upper atmosphere research, and even interviewed retired Air Force pilots who described seeing glass ripples above their planes during high-altitude missions. One pilot, Colonel Devin Marks, described it like this: "We were pushing Mach 2 when everything shimmered. Not the kind of shimmer you get from heat or pressure. This was different, like flying under a skin. And for a second, I saw stars bending like they were refracted through water." No one believed him. His report was classified, his career quietly dismantled. But Ives did believe him, and she discovered something else. In 1997, during the peak of solar cycle 23, a rare type of aurora appeared simultaneously in both hemispheres, a mirrored reaction. This wasn't just a coincidence. It was a resonance. Something, somewhere, was bouncing energy off the upper atmosphere, like sonar against a wall. Kern theorized that humanity was not being protected by the atmosphere, but imprisoned. That Earth, for all its beauty, was a quarantine zone, not for disease or violence, but for something far more dangerous: us. If Elias Kern was right, then the question isn't what built the firewall. But why? In one section of the Stratos Codex, he speculated that humanity once had access to higher states of consciousness, mental frequencies capable of interacting with forces beyond the material. Kern called it the signal, a natural, psychic resonance that once connected all human beings to something greater. But over time, that signal was dampened, filtered, severed. He believed the celestial firewall was designed specifically to block it. Rachel Ives found further support in a declassified Russian aerospace document from 1985. It detailed failed attempts to launch high-frequency communication satellites past a certain altitude. The transmissions worked perfectly up to a point, then silence. Instruments still functioned, but the signals simply vanished. The report concluded the existence of an unknown attenuation field above the ionosphere. Even more disturbing were the strange events reported by amateur balloonists. One man in Brazil launched a weather balloon with a high-resolution camera to capture the curvature of Earth. What he recorded instead was a momentary glitch in the sky, a hexagonal distortion, flickering like a lens flare, but with no light source. When slowed down frame by frame, the distortion revealed an outline, a framework. Latticed, geometric, artificial. Kern's final theory, scrawled in shaky handwriting near the end of his notes, read, "We are inside a construct. It is not made of stone or metal, but of energy, frequency, and memory. We have forgotten because we were made to forget." In the years after Ives leaked fragments of the Codex online, several independent researchers went missing. One died in a mysterious fire. Another, a radio astronomer in Norway, vanished during a storm, leaving behind nothing but a notebook full of harmonic equations in a single sentence. The sky listens back. It was clear someone or something was paying attention. As the fringe community grew bolder, data began to emerge from unlikely places. A group of rogue physicists at a private research firm in Switzerland conducted an unauthorized stratospheric balloon test in 2012. Their objective, to measure phase distortions in microwave transmissions sent from the ground to near space altitudes. What they found was a narrow band, just above 80 kilometers, where the signal began to echo back with a delay. Not static, not interference. A delayed mirror. To them, this was impossible. Nothing should echo in a vacuum. But something was bouncing their signal back, intelligently, even reactively. The pattern shifted depending on the modulation they used. The more complex the waveform, the more pronounced the return. It was as if the sky was not only reflecting, it was responding. One of the physicists, Dr. Lutz Heinrich, went public with the findings on a live stream. Within 48 hours, his lab was raided, servers seized, and the project shut down. Heinrich himself was labeled a danger to public safety and institutionalized shortly after claiming, during a final recorded interview, that the firewall was tightening. He warned that what had once been passive was now active, that the barrier had begun to adapt to human discovery. Rachel Ives, now living under a false name, released one last post on an encrypted channel. In it, she claimed the firewall was not a defense mechanism, but a filter, designed to allow only certain types of energy or consciousness to pass through. She wrote, "It's not just a prison, it's a sieve. Something is watching what escapes and what doesn't." In recent years, strange low-frequency sounds, so-called sky trumpets, have been heard across the globe, often dismissed as atmospheric phenomena. But some researchers think these are stress signals from the firewall, responses to solar flares, quantum experiments, or global surges in human emotion. What if every time we feel something massive, grief, rage, joy, it resonates upward? What if the firewall records it? And what happens when it fills? If the celestial firewall is real, then humanity lives beneath something far more sophisticated and sinister than we can imagine. We are taught to look outward, to dream of space travel, of colonizing Mars, of reaching distant stars. But if Kern and Ives were right, then all those dreams are built on a lie. We are not explorers of the cosmos. We are inmates in a beautifully rendered cell. The stars we see at night, they may not even be where we think they are. If the firewall bends light, curves reality, filters consciousness, then perception itself is compromised. We trust our eyes, our instruments, our memories, but what if they've all been tuned to a frequency designed for containment? The ancient myths spoke of a fall, of being cast down from higher planes. Perhaps it wasn't a metaphor. Perhaps we were locked away, not because we were evil, but because we were capable of becoming more. And perhaps the firewall is not eternal. Perhaps it's failing. More people report lucid dreams that feel too real. Children draw constellations that don't exist. Solar activity is rising, and with each flare, strange things appear in the upper sky, brief flashes, dark objects moving against the stars, echoes in the radio bands no one can explain. Maybe that's why governments are suddenly racing towards space, not to escape the planet, but to find the exit. But here's the real question. What happens if we break through? Do we find freedom? Or do we find out why the firewall was built in the first place? And who or what was so desperate to keep us in?